It's hump day, halfway through the week. You have two mics on a hump day show. So what else could be more perfect right now? I'm Mike Asti. That's Mike Vukovcan. This is another episode of Mic'd Up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live, Pittsburgh Sports Now, Pittsburgh Baseball Now. Got to let you know about Pittsburgh Baseball Now, all throughout the Now family of networks. And of course, it is presented by Martin Lawn Services. Number behind Mike there at 412-849-5894. And I alluded to Pittsburgh Baseball Now because we are going to talk some baseball and talk some Pittsburgh Pirates. It's been a while since we discussed the Pirates, did a couple post-game shows, discussed them there, but certainly has not got the conversation, been as many topics as the other teams. But, you know, that makes sense, probably for good reason, the way this season has been. The Steelers in the back burner still talk some WVU and Pitt evaluating their seasons and keys to their seasons and evaluating what's going to be expected and what we think of them on the field, not conference realignment, but on the field. That's still in the playlist over there at Mic'd Up on PSL and on those two sites. So go find that from our last show. But Mike, for this one, it's been a while since we talked about the Pirates. They had that long losing streak. They lost 10 of 11 or something like that. Park has been up. He's certainly got some time. We were actually just discussing this off the air that Ben Cherington has kind of spent this entire year as a pure evaluation. We've talked about this. Others have talked about this, that this year is not about – it is about evaluating individual players. And, well, he's done that and then some, no matter what you may think of it. A lot of Pirates have been able to see time this season more than ever before. Multiple players were all-stars and several others flirted with it. Obviously, Adam Frazier no longer there. They've made some moves. It really is about evaluating who he feels is going to be on team in the future whenever they win, who he thinks will be a part of that group, and a lot of unknowns still around that question. So far, what have you thought of Ben Cherington and this entire evaluating season and the fact that he is giving so many players chances? And then once the chance is over, they're gone, but really giving them chances. And certainly right now, middle of August, going to September with this team well out of the race, 30-plus games out of the race, it is all about evaluating players and just any other overlying Pirates thoughts, since it has been a while since we discussed it.
Well, I like what he's – first of all, I don't know that he has much choice, but I guess he does have choice. He could it shows that he's really evaluating. He's not just mailing this thing in and keeping guys out there that have no hope. He wants to win. And
at some point, yes.
He wants to win, and he's trying to find pieces in players that, you know, might not necessarily be starters. Mm-hmm. I think he's trying to find both the guys that maybe have everyday roles, but also guys, you know, maybe like Ben Gamble that could, you know, be a good bench player. He's starting now with the Pirates, but ideally, he's probably not a guy that you want starting. But to go on your point of, I like the audition. I guess
that's the word. He's giving players auditions.
These guys audition. Ty Tom.
Right.
He had a month or so here of playing a lot, and there was a lot of talk on Twitter. It's funny during these games, watching, just seeing people talk during games. It just drove people crazy why they were putting him out there. People were calling him one of the worst players in baseball, and blah blah blah.
Right.
He wanted to give the guy a chance for a little bit to see what he can do.
What does it hurt? What does it hurt? If we all agree that wins and losses and they're not going to win don't matter this year, what does it matter? What does it matter if you finish 34 out or 40 out? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and he did that. He saw what he saw. There was another outfielder, players available.
Right.
Got rid of Tom, bring it in. Nagurski at first base.
Right.
He was, you know, he caught fire at the beginning, developed in sort of a cult hero status here. He looked like a perfect Pittsburgh guy.
Yeah.
There was a better option on the in the waiver wire, wherever he got, you know, the recent addition from Japan. That's what it is. If he sees somebody back out there that he thinks could possibly be a piece. 2 years ago, this guy, I'm not going to try to mispronounce his name, but he was one of the top. He was a guy that a lot of people clamored for the Pirates to go after. Tampa Bay spent a lot of money to get him, and now he's here. He's going to have the last 2 months of the season, or month and a half,
Right.
see what he could do here and see if he can stick. I like this. And there's not many guys here on the Pirates, I would say, that have a guaranteed spot into next year. So, aside from Hayes and Reynolds and Stallings, this is open audition, man. Same with Anthony Alford. I'm afraid of him. I'm afraid for him that he's had 2 shots here now. And obviously, Cherington has a history with him with Toronto. He didn't impress during his first time, went down to AAA,
Right.
lit it up. Now he's back here again, and he's not hitting again, which tells me that he's probably a quad A player, a guy that's
Quad A player. Yeah, I love that phrase. Exactly.
Yeah, he's good enough to play. He's good enough to star in AAA, but for whatever reason, he can't hack the big league. So he's a guy that's probably, seen his time in Pittsburgh. It's not going to happen next year, but I have no problem what's going on.
Not only do I not have a problem, I like what's going on because, again, if wins and losses don't matter this year, and let's face it, that was the case entering the season. In all honesty, starting the year with that 13-12 or whatever the record was that first month, complete fool's gold. They were never going to contend. That they knew it even then. So it was about evaluating individual players, especially when Hayes was hurt at the beginning of the year. And yes, it's wonderful that Frazier had the All-Star year and you're able to sell him high and get value for him. It's great that Brian Reynolds was able to prove to you that he can be a part of your team when it wins. You can be an all-star player, that he is more of what he was a few years ago than what he was in 2020 when that was just such a miserable season for him. So that was an unknown entering the year. Is what is Reynolds? 2019 or is he 2020? We figured out he's closer to 2019. That's great for the Pirates. It's not just Hayes. It's an untouchable. Reynolds is included. Stallings has continued to be that underrated player for a couple years, stabilizing the pitching staff. You can give a lot of credit to those pitchers when they were pitching well, that it's probably because of him as well as them. So that's been great. And Tyler Anderson and Brubaker at times have been solid pitchers. So that's great for the team. But it also is about evaluating, as you mentioned, not just who will be there as the starters, not just who will be there as maybe those stars and Hayes and Reynolds. Reynolds can be with Hayes in that group. But who's going to fill out this team? He is literally doing auditions in the middle of a season. And maybe it's rare to see that in Major League Baseball, but this team, again, is out of it. They knew they were going to be out of it, so why not do it? And Ben Cherington, we've said this before, he's won before. He knows how to build a winner. Granted, different in Boston, when if you make a few mistakes, you can just spend money and fix them, and you can win quicker there than with the Pirates. Of course, that's the case, but this is a challenge he's willing to undergo. He knows what's there, I would imagine. So we will see what happens when players are up contractually, but he is about evaluating who even cares to worry about right now. And that's a very, very big deal. Yeah.
And one guy that I know, the Pirate fans, he's kind of the lightning rod of Pirate fans right now because he's playing every day. In some ways, I'm a little surprised, but I'm not surprised with the amount of time that Kevin Newman still gets.
Yeah.
He's a good defensive player. But the other thing is, I don't think right now they have any other options at shortstop. I think
Park's been getting time at shortstop a little bit as well.
Yeah, he's been kind of different places, outfield, infield.
Right.
But I think once they find an option at shortstop, Kevin Newman, I don't know that he's going to be here next year. If he is, maybe he's a utility guy that comes off the bench.
Because in terms of the opening day lineup, he's been the consistently worst, I would say.
Right.
In terms of the opening day lineup and who was on that group, not all here still, he's been the worst to this point. But Parks got some time at short. But the reason why Parks got time at short, and you mentioned Newman getting time, out of the depth of the Pirates farm, because it's deeper than it's been before. That is one benefit of the rebuild right now in comparison to recent years when they've also been awful. They do have some farm. It's lacking of depth at short. They don't have, that's why they drafted there. They don't have much at that position, and that's still 2-3 years away. So that is the one position. There is a gaping hole there. If it's not going to be Newman, and you figure it's not, can it be Park? Who will it be?
Well, they also got one of the guys acquired. One of the guys they acquired in the he'll be a guy that I guess they don't feel he's ready yet, but he's at Indy in one of the trades they made. So he'll be the next guy up. But
Who will be the starter next year, though? It's
Right,
short
and
going into next season, and that'll be. I'm sure fans will freak out if it is Newman.
Yes.
Maybe it could be maybe it could be Park. But all these examples, I don't think any of them are ready to play and be opening day next year. So that's a major question: is who starts at shortstop opening day next year?
Yeah, and I think two things that are kind of important the rest of the season to get a look at is, I think they need to let Hoy Park just go out there and play every day. I'm not going to profess to be to know how good this guy is going to be. I don't think they know how good he's going to be.
Right.
But you're not going to know.
Yeah, he's hitting 245 right now.
Yeah, he should be out there at some position playing every day. And no final evaluation is going to be made on the guy, but he needs to go out there and play. He'll be a part of the mix next year, but let him go out there and play. The other guy I'd like to see called up here, hopefully soon, is this Michael Chavez. They got in trade. He was the guy that he has major league experience with Boston. He was one of their rookies of the year a few years ago. He was there when Cherington was there. He's a guy that I would bring him up here and give him some time before the end of the year. I'm sure we're going to see some guys come up in September as we end the season in Indianapolis, but he's one guy that I'm kind of intrigued by just because of what he's done before in the past, that he's not some guy that'll be wide-eyed to the big leagues.
And that's big because there's been people that thought maybe Alford, maybe others were wide-eyed to the big leagues right away. And now he's getting a second crack, but once again struggling. So when you start kind of wide-eyed, deer in headlights, you struggle, your chances are minimal, and we'll see. But again, Cherington is evaluating here. I do want to kind of pivot, though. Of course, this is Mic'd Up here, presented by Martin Lawn Services. Mike Vukovcan, Mike Asti here. We're talking some Pirates baseball. Make sure to head over to Pittsburgh Baseball Now. All our coverage throughout these Pirate games, throughout this Pirate season, going into the off season, all this conversation about what's happening in the show and also throughout the farm system over there at Pittsburgh Baseball Now. Two questions for you. Number one, a player that has been around a long time that is still getting playing time. We talked about we don't mind that Newman is because it's a position that there's no depth there. We're going to get to that other conversation here in a minute to end the show on that star that's struggling. But this is no longer a star. Gregor Polanco is still getting time. Do you have a problem with him still getting time? We've talked about before. Others have said even a month ago. I know our friend Paul Zeiss has been continuously bringing this up. Polanco should just be done. He's going to be done as a Pirate. Why is he playing? But he is still playing. Ever since Paul wrote the column, this man has played every day. I don't know if they're trolling him or what's going on. And yes, he stole some bases and every now and then flirts with a fly ball that people think is going to go out of the park, and occasionally it may. But do you have a problem with him playing so much now when his Pirates career is clearly over and you're evaluating players for the future that are clearly not him?
Yeah, it makes zero sense. He has no shot to be back next year.
Right.
Under the current situation, they're not going to pick up his option.
And there's no value to get for him anymore.
Yeah, there's no evaluation. I could see possibly, but that was never going to happen. Playing him before the trade deadline to find
that's
to find a team that would be stupid enough to try to pick him up.
Right.
I'll say this though about Polanco, although he shouldn't be nowhere near the field.
Right.
He seems as though he's a good teammate. He's a guy that people like. Right. He seems like he cares about being out there. He's just not good enough right now. Whether it's all the injuries that have caught up with him, he's not a major league starter right now. Is he a guy that possibly could be a bench player? I wouldn't have him, but maybe. But
I could have saw a pennant winner picking him up for a stolen base late in the game. Remember Dave Roberts for those 04 Red Sox? He didn't do anything offensively, but got that stolen base late for them to win. So who knows? He can steal.
I don't understand Shelton's thinking with this. There's other options.
Right.
I'd take options in AAA. I don't understand what they're doing with Gregory Polanco, but at this point, I'm not going to argue about Gregory Polanco. I don't know what they, we have a month and, we have a month and 12 days left of his career as a Pirate. And then that'll be it with him. But it's kind of disappointing. They got him. He was part of the big three with McCutcheon and Marte. They showed faith in him by giving him an extension, some big money. And unfortunately for him, it just never, as the luck would be with the Pirates, it didn't work out.
No,
he looked to be that super prospect. He was a top 20 or whatever, top 50 prospect in baseball. And he showed flashes, but just couldn't put it together.
Yeah, based on the hype and based on where he was in terms of as a prospect, it is a bust situation. He had a couple years. He was flirting with being an all-star, certainly was a part of that big three, was a great player. You figured he could put it together offensively, defensively, and as a speedster who could steal bags for you. Still, I believe, 9th in Major League Baseball this year, so he still can do that. He's athletic, but the injuries caught up with him. He then couldn't find his swing any longer. I know from people who covered the team this offseason, even early into this season, the first month or two, he had 3 different swings he would try before games and to try to figure out which one was going to be what he would use. When you're doing that in Major League Baseball and you have 3 different swings, that's it. It's no good. It's the same thing as a shooter in basketball trying to figure out a shot. If you don't got it figured out, it's the Ben Simmons conversation. If you don't have it figured out by the NBA, it is rough to try to figure it out then. And when you have 3 different options that you're just trying out in closed door gym sessions, there's going to be some concern. It's like you're a baby. You're 5 years old trying to play again. So that was not a good sign for Polanco.
Means if you have 3 swing options, you have 0 options.
You have 0 swing options. Exactly. When you have 3, he had 0 swing options. And every now and then he would fall backwards into something working. But he's not going to be around any longer. It is interesting. I wouldn't even mind. We mentioned Park playing all over the diamond. He's getting some time at short recently. But if you want to play Newman out there, I wouldn't even mind because if Newman has to play, then you have Alford and Park and you try Park in the outfield and then Polanco sits. I don't see a benefit of playing Polanco. You just try different things for the future.
Somebody at AAA should
doesn't include Polanco.
Somebody at AAA should be up here.
Or that, somebody else would be up here. There's absolutely no reason why Polanco plays. It is just hilarious to me that he keeps on playing. We're going to close it up with this, though, and this is the conversation that has not been discussed that often. I feel like he's been given a mulligan by Pirates fans and media this year, and maybe for good reason based on this season. He dealt with injuries earlier in the year. Prior to this season, Mike, and we are not exaggerating for anyone who is in a coma, by national networks, including MLB Network, he was rated one of the best at his position in all of baseball. He was considered a guaranteed all-star and MVP candidate type of player and one of those top 5 at his position in the league. And I'm talking about Ke'Bryan Hayes. Entered the year hot that first weekend with a dinger, then got hurt. That balloon got popped. He then re-aggravated injuries. It was a long time before you saw him again. Obviously, this team's not winning, so they didn't need to rush him back either when you're re-aggravating. And since he's been back, he has been struggling. He's been up and down. It's nothing to say he is a legit all-star or he's one of the best at his position, etc. Clearly, the franchise still believes he can be that guy. Fans and media mostly, I'd imagine, believe he can be that guy, and he is still one of the untouchables for the future. Who knows? If he can be healthy, maybe he can put together an all-star season. But do you have any pause or concern about Ke'Bryan Hayes because of what you've seen this year? Not just the injury, the re-aggravation, but the fact that he has not really been that great when on the field. And now he's been healthy for over a month, and it has been mediocre baseball, certainly not star baseball. He had the end of the season last year, but it's about what you do from then on. Any concern on Ke'Bryan Hayes for the future based on what you've seen now?
No. If we're having the same conversation next year, maybe. But I'm still going to the fact that this guy hasn't played 100 games or, whatever. He hasn't played more than 100 games in the big leagues. Who knows if he's completely healthy? Just because you're out there playing doesn't mean that you're completely healthy. Are you good enough to play, or are you completely who knows?
Right.
When you have an injury to to your hand, which is obviously crucial to your swing, we don't know. All I know is the guy can play defense, but they need for him to be what
he has to have offense for him to be what the hype was.
Right, exactly. That's what I would say. He has to. Defense can only be the what he does. I think he's going to get it together. I just think he's too young of a player. This guy came in here with probably a little bit too much hype.
Right.
But that's a good thing. That means he has potential, and that's what you want. You don't want guys to sneak up on you because usually they're not as good. Then they're, probably not that good. People see the talent in Ke'Bryan Hayes. It's not just the Pirates. People throughout baseball, so it's not,
Oh yeah.
the Pirates. It's not just the Pirates that are trying to sell him for their future. People around baseball know that this guy has potential, and I have no doubt the way. When he was hitting well, guys that hit like he was from all parts of the field, right field, center field, left field, he knew what he was doing out there. And I just think he's going through something right now. He's probably not has a lot of help around him. The losing's got to him. I think this offseason will be good for him. And like I said, if we're having this conversation a year from now and he's only hitting 250 with 5 home runs and 20 some RBIs, then the Pirates have a problem on their hands. But right now, he's very down on the list of concerns I have for the Pirates in their future. He's pretty high up there. There's a lot of other guys. Mitch Keller would be a bigger bigger problem than and what to do with him than Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Yeah, and Mitch Keller will be the discussion all offseason, I'd imagine, as well as Newman and the shortstop position, etc. Some people might bring up Ke'Bryan Hayes, but 257, 5 homers, 25 RBI for those numbers that Mike just alluded to. Not been great at all, and he does certainly need to bring it offensively to be that star that many were talking about. However, he dealt with injuries this year. I guess the only concern I would have is that he's dealt with injuries a lot early in a career. That might be somewhat of a concern, but again, very young. We've seen flashes of this, and it's not just flashes like even we saw with Polanco back in 2018, where, you could be something. Nobody in 2018 was thinking Polanco was going to be the best player in baseball. They thought he could be an okay all-star for you, one of your top 3 or 4 when you win. Ke'Bryan Hayes has shown flashes that everybody in baseball, including the national media, were saying, wow, this looks like a young McCutchen. Obviously, they play different positions, etc. So that's the kind of pop he had all over the field. He was able to run things out. He was able to really show pop. He was the only one that really showed pop in this lineup consistently. They desperately need that. They're going to give him tons of chances. Obviously, if we're having this conversation next year, whether it be injuries or him just struggling, that would be a major concern. These are your early years that normally you eventually got to explode, but he's still very, very young, and we will see. But certainly they're going to give him tons of rope. He's going to be around, and this season might just be a watch for him with everything he's dealt with.
He has in 2 seasons, he has 326 career at-bats.
Yeah, and he's not even played a full season.
And in an evaluation in the minor leagues, they always say, they want a guy, not just the Pirates, but teams say they like to have a player have 400 or 500 at-bats
right.
At a particular classification. He hasn't even had that in 2 seasons with the Pirates. He's had 300 at-bats, 326 at-bats with the Pirates. So
450 to 500 is what a star player would get in a full season, 162.
Right.
So
that's 2 seasons. He has 200 at-bats this year.
Yeah. So again, he's not had a fair shot, but I guess you're going to have some concern when it's been this consistently mediocre for a month plus. But we don't know his injury status or if he's fully healthy. And I'm sure the conversation was had, if he's not fully healthy, do you play him? But as you're mentioning there, he got to get some ABs. He got to be out there. You can't have him not go through a full 400 at bats 3-4 years in for whatever reason. So he's out there. That's fine. I'd imagine if something is not 100%, he eventually be shut down. Every now and then you're still seeing flashes. There's not enough being put together. The defense is there. He's still helping the team, even though they're not winning. But he's going to be the star. And if he's not the star, this whole thing is gone. This whole thing is a wash. He is clearly the kingpin of this rebuild, even above Reynolds. So he does desperately need to put it together for the Pirate franchise to be able to get moving. And next year would be a key for Ke'Bryan Hayes, pun intended, that he doesn't need to be the best player in baseball. He needs to play healthy. He needs to get at bats. He needs to play well. And he needs to maybe flirt with an all-star appearance potentially next year. Or then again, as you said, if we're having this conversation again next year, there would be greater concern despite his age and youth. So that'll do it for this morning's show here. We'll definitely throw this over there at Pittsburgh Baseball Now. Again, head over there, as that is our newly unveiled site that covers the Pirates and beyond, also down to the farm system. For Mike Vukovcan, I'm Mike Asti. For all of us at PSL, PSN, and the rest of the network, that'll do it for this show. Check out all the sites. And If any of you are staying up watching these games, I certainly envy you, because of course the Pirates playing baseball over there at 1 a.m. on the East Coast in this series against LA. But their season continues. We got a chatter here. My expectation for Hayes is 800 plus OPS. Okay, we'll see. Go along with elite defense. He's not there yet. We'll see. Again, the expectations are really, really high, so that's why some people may have concern to this point. But that'll do it for